Welcome to the Healing Collective podcast, where we explore the paradox of healing.
And we broadcast all of the healing codes to support a world of more heart-centered humans.
I've been in marathon, old version of level of working all week until now. I have 2 more half-hour clients and then I'm off tomorrow. And this week has been so full, not good full.
Yeah, Mary sent me someone to stretch me and she canceled my last appointment. And that was the only appointment she has for 2 months, is the same time as our podcast. So I want to not record next Thursday.
I want you to come out. I feel like
everybody wants me to come out.
But I feel like Zach and Mary, I feel like you need to get.
I do want to do it. But I really want to get it done regularly. So whether or not I come out, it really obviously makes an impact when you can do it often.
And the workshop that we did, they're doing that. They're going to do a bunch of those. So they're doing one on April 8th, 2 weeks from Saturday. They're going to do another one, but they teach you how to stretch yourself. And then you can do it over Zoom with Mary. If you get a sense of the things, then Mary will do over Zoom with you if you want.
I know, but I just want to be touched.
I get it.
But this woman does that too. I hope she's just decent. I mean, Mary sent it to me out of the blue. So I'm just going to take this as I go.
Okay.
And my Pluto and Aquarius is in my 12th house. So I'm most of my subconscious is my body. So maybe I'm just going to mush it all out for 20 years.
Well, so Zach and my synastry, his rising is directly on my Pluto, or vice versa. No, my rising, his Pluto, basically transforming through destruction. That's very on the nose for tearing apart my fascia to transform me. But there's so much personality stuff that happened. It's really wild. They're shamans. They are shamans.
So your Aquarius is in the house of home, family, dad, past lineage.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how much change. So it's coming out of my 3rd house, which is siblings and communities. And I can feel how much change, basically in 2008 is when it went in. And that's when shit started going weird with all my siblings in one way or another. That's when my dad died, 2008. And so it's been since my dad died, that's how almost exactly how long Pluto's been in Capricorn.
Wow.
And that's when a lot of sibling drama started. And then we've kind of moved through a lot of it, I guess, and are on the other side of certain stuff, but we're all so different. We're all different people than we were in 2008. And yeah.
How this Mars in Cancer transit.
I think it's going to be nice after being in Gemini all this time.
It's with our kids, right? For you?
For me,
no, it's Cancer. Oh, Cancer for you, spirituality. For me, it's pleasure, kids.
Yeah, that's where I have Saturn. So you have Mars, which is just a month or something. Saturn's for 3 years going to be in my house of creativity, kids, sex, pleasure, recreation, and fun.
It's in my 1st house, Saturn. Yeah, it's clear that things are gonna be shooken up. Oh, so what do you want to talk about today?
I want to hear about Shasta.
Yeah, let me go back there. Shasta. Okay, well, just for context, also I don't know how much but I did a vision board in November on Abby's birthday. We did a little vision board workshop for part of her little mini birthday party. And I'm doing my vision board, and this piece of, how you just cut and there's scraps of paper. So one falls out. I pick it up and it says Shasta on it. Not Mount Shasta, but just Shasta. All during the time that Heyman and I were doing our thing, Mount Shasta was a big it was like this whole thing, like, we've got to go to Mount Shasta, or he's got to go. There was even a time he planned this whole trip and the whole thing. So there's like this weird connection to it. Right. Then, so I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to Mount Shasta this year. And there was this picture that I'd already put on the board, and there's like this mountain, and it's like really beautiful color. And I'm going like this. I don't know if you saw the picture I took in Shasta, but it like looks like that picture where the mountain looks orange. It's on my Instagram. You're on mute.
And I was with Abby, so you were sending her, texting her stuff, and then she would show me some of the photos and stuff. So I saw that one from her showing it to me, actually.
So, and then, so Pluto's been in my Capricorn, in my 11th house of like community since 2008. I couldn't probably tell you what started in 2008. I'm actually curious to go back to that, but I know it's when kind of like I stopped having Christian friends. I know that that's a big, but you know, like loss of Freedom House, loss of KIP, like all these communities that I was such a big part of. You met like Tally because she's on the podcast. Basically, I've been kind of reconnected to a newer community of people that are definitely like star people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones who went to Egypt. So they're the ones that like connected me to that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when I called the facilitator of the Egypt trip, she's like, I'm going to Mount Shasta in March. Do you want to go? And I'm like, well, it's funny you say that. It's on my vision board. I think I am supposed to go. Like the money just arrived super easily, and you could break it up into payments, which really worked out for me. So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And like the other girls already had their flight. So I just got on the same flight. They had a rental car, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, and then I do really feel strongly I'm supposed to go to Egypt this year. That trip got moved now because we didn't get enough people. But I still think it's going to happen.
Because those weeks, like it was those weeks that didn't work for me too. Like,
yeah, a lot of people said timing was off for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's looking more at like September, October now.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to take Taylin with me. So anyway, so we're like, okay, we're going to Shasta. And we get all this paperwork for it. And it's like, we're going to go to a pyramid of Isis. We're going to go to like, because Shasta is really known for like the Lemurians and Telos still living on the mountain. Like
California?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's in Northern California. Like it's known for like a lot of alien sightings, the belief that like some Lemurians still live inside the mountain in this city they call Telos, but it's like a 5D community. It's like where she channeled Sophia Code, the Federation of Light supposedly like meets there. It's supposed to be the root chakra of the earth and some like central point of the entire earth, like in terms of like a portal. So we go to the airport, we get on the plane. 10 minutes later, they tell us to get off the plane. And they're like, what do they say? Like, basically, it's like a huge delay in San Francisco. And like, we had this like connecting flight in Reading. And it was basically like, we're not going because there's no way this is going to work out. But like this girl that I'm traveling with, she's like, you just see her go into like computer mode, like, and she's like, there's a flight my friend's on who's also coming. It's to Sacramento. It's from O'Hare. It's leaving in 30 minutes. She runs, gets us all on that flight. While she's asking them to change us, the people come over to the guy and are like, don't change anybody's flights because everybody's going to want to have their flight changed. And he still does it. It was like very magical. We run over to this other gate, get on the Sacramento flight. Instead of going to San Francisco, she already had a rental car. So we just rode in her rental car. It's like the biggest blizzard for sure California's ever seen. We can drive like 2 miles an hour. At one point, we're like stuck on the highway for hours. And one of the girls is getting out talking to like 18-wheelers and being like, do you know if this is ever going to open up? Like, we didn't know, like when you close a road, like, does that mean it never opens? Does it mean you sleep on the highway? Like, what is that even? We finally get there. It's snowing so badly we can't drive up to the house. So we have to take our suitcases, park at the bottom of this kind of like mountain, walk up. This woman that's with me, she was in the Israeli military and was married to like a Russian gangster. And she said it was the scariest thing she's ever done.
What?
So it was definitely like quite an entrance. I'm like, what the fuck is this trip? Like, if this is the way that it's starting. The power almost went out. Then we wake up the next day. It's beautiful, gorgeous, no snow at all or whatever. So, yeah. So then, and everybody didn't make it. So there's like half, like maybe 75% of the groups there the first couple of days. And then the other half part of the group makes it eventually. But the air and the water, like it felt energetically different. Like my story is that it's already in the 5D, like the mountain is holding the 5D. It's like a higher vibrational frequency. We had this guide whose name is Paula Venus. He knows he's from Venus. He has a whole story. He has a documentary on Gaia, but basically he was like a rock star. He used to open for The Cure and these different people. He used to open for Cure. He got electrocuted by accident at a New Year's Eve party. And it ended up being like, he almost died. And it was like some kind of like major spiritual transformation upgrade situation. So he basically can hear and see fifth dimensional beings and higher. And he ended up coming to Shasta to like heal himself. And he has this like deep relationship with Saint Germain. And so basically most of the trip was us snowshoeing to all these different portals on the mountain and like meeting and talking with different beings from different dimensions, also including like meeting unicorns. You're on mute.
Like he was like translating, like.
Yeah, we could feel them some places. I could definitely feel them. The most powerful place for me was there's this like, so Lemuria. Well, let me back up. So we did a breath work because we couldn't do everything we wanted to do the first day. So we stayed at the house. One of the people was a breathwork practitioner. Backing up, like I had the craziest dreams. I took notes of all of them, like these wild dreams. I did a meditation that first morning and had this like deep healing with Talen's like higher self and younger self in the field and like was like sobbing. It's like him forgiving me for what happened on the mountain when he fell and me trying to forgive myself for that. So that's already happened. Like I felt like I was on medicine the whole time. And I feel that way in Sedona, but it was like turned up from Sedona. Like the vibration is higher than Sedona.
Where is it in like, it's in Northern California, where? Like north?
All I know, basically you drive 4 hours north of San Francisco is as much as I can.
Okay. So like probably almost to like the Oregon line or something.
Yeah, it probably is pretty close.
Okay.
So, then we do a breath work. I don't think I hadn't even microdosed or anything. I'm in the breath work. I start making these like growling noises. Then all of a sudden, now I know I must have left my body because he told me like it was so intense. This, whatever happened to me, that everybody else doing the breath work, like stopped to like look at me during their breath work experience. And I'm like growling and whatever. I leave my body. What I remember was I was at the bottom of the Great Pyramid. I saw these like other bluish beings. I'm like transported, something around Arcturians. I got to bring up the notes actually, because I turned into a lion dragon. They tell me that like Lemuria is just like a geographic place, and also Atlantis, and they're in the future. They're not the past. The Arcturians are the future humans. Lemuria and Atlantis are just geographies, but like all these different species live there. Told me Talon is an Arcturian prince. I saw myself as some kind of queen. There was like a king energy there, but it was like kind of off to the side. I couldn't feel into it. Talon activates as I activate. We have a parallel design. the pyramids were made in the future and left here as time travel portals. The future DNA mixes the species of all DNA, but especially like light beings and humans. That's how we get to continue to exist. That's what's happening now. That's
like the light body, human body thing.
Exactly.
And
that like this at one point, this was a different download they told me, and it was like loud. Like they're like, it's like not me just feeling it. It was like direct. And they were like these are your ancestors. Basically, you're getting to observe your ancestors by being human right now. That the DNA you can shapeshift. You tell me about Abby, that she came through Pleiades, but I don't think she's from Pleiades. Like she's always said that she thinks that Pleiades is like a star station that then distributes. And I saw that. And that all these species have come to Lemuria to help, but I don't really understand what they were helping for. But so bringing future to the past is what I wrote down. So I have this, I'm like gone. My body goes limp, like whatever. And then it comes back, then it's over. I come back and everyone's like, what the fuck happened, And I pulled like a card. She had brought all these Lemurian cards, and it was basically like the card that shows the alien, you know how in the old movies it shows like the person being like transported from Earth up to the spaceship. That's the card I pulled before this happened. And it was definitely, I don't remember what the title was, but it was something like that. So like, okay, this can be so interesting. Also, like, it was like, for whatever reason, the way that everything turned out, like people were so appreciative of me and so like, you are so powerful, like almost to the point that it was almost like too much and almost like a little bit like putting me on a pedestal, but like, because they were witnessing all of these things happen, you know what I mean?
The other people that you were with were being like this?
The other people I was with. So it was both beautiful because, how much I've struggled with being who I am and feeling accepted, but also a little bit hard to take in and a little bit like awkward, I guess. Then another big day was when we went to the Lemurian part of the mountain. And that was like a really weird sensation, like you've been there before, or it's super familiar. Then all these rocks in my system was like, that's a spaceship. Like it almost felt like it was like shape shifting, or like it looked like rocks, but it was something else. So then, and there was like this waterfall and it was just really interesting energy. And then I just started getting like raining downloads, and kind of like my human self like went away. And I was just like, as my future self, like having all these conversations and getting all this information. It said, like, here, I just took as many notes as I could. Like they said, my name means the one who remembers. I think they meant my name wherever I am. That I began on the earth in Lemuria. That humanity evolves because we integrate light and starseed DNA. That there's like these councils that travel together of diverse species so that we can like help integrate the DNA by understanding the different species that are coming here at this time, that like 2023. That what we call other lives are like simulations and practice for like learning and fun. That diversity is such an important concept to understand because there's so many levels of it happening at once. Showed me like about breaking apart the genome, explained to me why like the journey work and the stuff that I'm learning, because we haven't even really talked about it, but like there's just so much crazy stuff happening in that world for me, and I'm getting so much information there. Showed me like the Baha'i temple and these different structures that exist now and how they're like future temples. The current humans are our ancestors. That it's super important that I like what I know and I see is protected. and that I'm only to activate those who are ready. Like I'm not here to basically work with just anyone. And that I need that it seemed like at some point I'm going to be focusing a lot on children, and they need activation and this support to hold everything that they're bringing.
You know that in my past life regression, I was activating babies and children.
Right. So it was like very like that one where it took me a while to come down, and I was like hoping I could hold it more. It was like one of those things like if I could have like sat down with all the people there, I felt like I could have just like transmitted like a bunch of like things. But then as soon as we left the mountain, like about 30 minutes away from the mountain, I like lost the connection, and it just felt totally different.
Does it feel like you're supposed to live there or something?
No, that was the other part of it. So I guess this makes sense, right? But like, there was also a lot of like dark energy, and like people disguised as spiritual teachers that are there's a lot of polarities, I guess you would say. And
Did you get any info about anybody we know?
No, it was just like most of us got entities while we were there. We had to, there's just like the place we were staying was beautiful, but the woman who owned it was like kind of like just pretty off. Like
just everything's, all the intensities ratcheted up in like both directions almost.
Right, maybe, yeah. But like the land, the water, the air, it was like when I closed my eyes, I saw crystalline geometry, and like, like the rainbows that come through, like the rainbow things you got me, like everything was like that iridescent rainbow. It like the message I got is like basically it's like an upgraded molecular structure, like all these things. And I think the main reason I went there was to like get those codes and to feel that grid. And I have been able to feel like I have brought that back. Like a lot of the days since I've been back, I feel like I'm on medicine and I'm not, like microdosing, like a high microdose basically. And then one day Abby was here, we journeyed someone, and then they left, and then we were in my journey space and like opened a portal, and like I was back at the bottom of the pyramid, and just some things like that. But they're also like, thank God I had Marla like the day I came back, and she was like there was a lot, I was off, and she was like,
I mean, you're off.
Like energetically, my
like
numbers
chakra levels and just ability to heal yourself and all that.
Right. And she was like, I think you went there to see like, because there wasn't a strong container. There was like pieces that I really care about that weren't in place. And she was like, I think you had to see it like not like that and see the impact. Because I did get the message. I don't love it. I don't love this message, but the message is like, once people are activated and their bodies are upgraded, then they should go to Shasta, then they should go to Egypt. There's like another thing available, but not really before, which I think also has something to do with why the timing got pushed back.
Yeah.
So there was one other thing that happened. What was it that I was going to say? Oh, we went to this like pyramid, this man 20 years ago, he's like 91 now. He basically had Isis and Metatron tell him that he should build a pyramid in this person's like yard or on his land. So he built a pyramid, and he used the same angles and everything of the Great Pyramid, like the same ratio, even though it's not the same size. And so we go in that pyramid and we do like a whole ceremony or whatever. And like, he's like, Isis is a part of this pyramid. Like I felt like I got this like upgrade in my throat chakra, my thyroid, like all these things occurred in the energetic frequency of that space. And I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, Heyman just randomly built a pyramid and like a time machine thing. And it was like so many qualities were so similar. And then this guy had a giant, so you're walking up to the pyramid. Outside to the right is a giant copper Merkaba as big as me that he's like built in his yard. So it's just like,
wow.
Yeah.
What's like how do you feel now?
in this moment. I've been feeling really good. Things have been just moving really slow and been really peaceful. Like I've been taking naps every day, but I've been like, I had like crazy dreams last night. I definitely feel like some Pluto energy today. I felt some vulnerability come up the last couple of days, and I haven't really been connected to that. I've just only been like in kind of a bliss, joy, excited state. So just, yeah, navigating that.
When did you get those nails done? Those are alien nails.
Yeah, they're definitely. For Donna had her 50th birthday party on Saturday, and I got my nails done that morning.
That's a crazy trip.
It was crazy. And the other thing was that the way the rooms worked out, like some stuff happened because the blizzard, so we had less rooms. So there was one room and it had 2 twin beds and 2 trundle beds. So the 4 girls that we all came with were all in one room, and it was like so fun. Like it was like sleepover, like Greece sleepover vibes. And 2 of the women, at least, like they're definitely like not the kind of women who sleep on like trundle beds and twin beds. And they're like sleep of the 4 seasons, you know? So it was like an edge, but for some people, but it ended up being really, really fun. One of the women I was with, her grandmother died while we were there. So we were like holding space for her. Definitely felt like being in another world for a hot minute. I got so many different times messages about Taylon. That was really interesting. And
what did you say, healing on the mountain from when something happened on the mountain? What is that about?
Remember when he fell off the bike at Megan's ranch in Colorado, like years ago? And but it's really affected his like self-confidence in sports, his physical comfort in his body. Like he never really played baseball the same since. And there's just like a way that I think he points to that as like
the trauma. Like,
yeah.
Have you noticed anything different around that since you sort of did that work there and completed in the field a little bit?
I don't know. I wondered about it. I'm curious that I'm going to talk to Marla today. She's going to give me a little bit of information about his session. I do feel like he's going through some kind of like activation and like shift, and like he tried out for baseball and he didn't make baseball. He's never not made a team before. Like, so it's just like, feels like this general thing that's occurring. And I want to believe that part, that healing really, energetically in my body, it feels different, but I don't know.
What's his rising sign?
Same as me. Pisces.
Finn's definitely in something too. Like, I mean, his body and health has been super challenged, but it's totally tied to anxiety. And then it's like we finally went to the pediatric GI doctor this week, which took months and months to get this appointment. And he was like writhing. He was so anxious. And he does the same thing on calls with Marla. Like now he just wants me to do his Marla calls. Like talking about the stuff is so activating for him. Because she'll be like, what happened that was upsetting this time? Even just talking about it is like overwhelming for him. And I don't know. And then like him and Parker are like always together. Like Jesse has them halftime and I have them halftime. So, but Finn's like desperate to get away from Parker. So Jesse let me take Finn a day early last week, and we had like a date night and like went out. He likes a fancy dinner. He's like me. He wants to go have filet mignon and stuff and like, have a nice dinner at a nice restaurant. And we did that. I went to the bathroom at the restaurant and I came back and he was like, there's a lot of spirits in here. And I was like, what, like good, bad spirits? He's like, just neutral. He's like, there's just a lot. And it's a brand new building built on this old boatyard. That's one of the original ports where people came like from Europe.
There's a lot more energies, like, and they have so much more access. So that reminds me of the other thing that happened, which is okay, one of these women that was on the trip, she calls me and she's like, oh my God, I just channeled a dead guy.
Oh yeah, you told me to ask you about this.
And I was like, okay, like, did you have consent? I'm like going into my whole thing. And she's like, he was the guy that the journalist beheaded by ISIS. Do you remember when that happened? An American journalist was captured by ISIS, like the Taliban ISIS.
When was this?
I mean, that's what I was wondering. I mean, it had to be like 5 years ago or more, because the crazy thing is, so he was very close to my boss at KIP. So I was very close to that situation when it happened. So anyways, like
when the journalist got beheaded by ISIS
in like 2000. Oh, ISIS or
ISIS or Al Qaeda?
ISIS.
I mean, there have been so many beheadings there. Yeah, that's not like an isolated thing.
You looking it up?
Mm-mm. Anyway, long story short, like we helped him move through because he was like stuck in between worlds, and he gave us messages. And so it's like every day there's and it just gets more complex, and what's really like, I guess what's changed for me that seems very dramatic in the last is just like, I'm not like fighting with myself about it, like that it's real or not real. I'm just like, this is real. And and I know what to do. And, there's just kind of this like peace about it all.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it felt really good to know what to do and to be able to help, and it feels good to also not like, people are calling me their crisis because they're like, what, this is so weird. This is so crazy. I don't understand this. And it's like, I do understand it, and like yesterday I was with this newer client and she just started crying and she was like, oh my God. She was like, who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. Like, you are not from here. You came here just to help us. She just like starts saying all this stuff. And I think that at least for now, how this changes, but I'm like, I'm having this moment of like, everything I went through was for a reason, and I understand a lot of the reason, not all of it. And that when I'm helping people, it's because I did it first. It's not because I'm like reading it in a book or,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, this is the journey I went on. So I do know how hard it is. Like, and I wish they could know how much I know, because that's one of the reasons I do feel grateful for this podcast, because I think there's ways that it's like
documenting the struggle,
documented, like how, and even before that, there were even harder and harder times that aren't documented, but some of it is, and kind of my confusion of myself. And so all I know is I'm like, if it's getting this weird now, like, I don't know, 10 years from now, like whatever is coming is just like next level,
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know how long ago it was, like a little over a week ago, Finn had kind of like a meltdown. And he was just like, he feels like I've been trying to have all these other people help him.
Oh, and he's like, you're supposed to help me.
Yeah. And he's like, and one of the things he was saying, yes, that's exactly what he said. And he also said, this is all new to me. He's like, your friends are used to talking about this stuff. Like, I don't know this stuff. Like, I'm still getting used to this and I don't really get it. And, I can find that one in me, because like, even like the podcast with Finn came out recently, and like some of my clients have gotten a hold of it and stuff. So they're all listening to it and stuff and bringing it up on coaching calls. And I'm like, yeah, like I consciously with Finn in particular was like, I don't know what to do here. And so I like specifically suck you out, like was like seeking you out to be like, and then I feel like my capacity to have these different experiences or believe in different stuff has been growing since in the time I've known you. But I do find myself on my edge all the time. So I feel like I am like where you were with yourself, and I'm like always like, and like there's so many things I can't explain. Like even that phone call we had the other night, I'm like, that is just as potent or maybe more potent as this like deep, several hours long hypnosis past life regression. I was like, that's exactly the same. The pace of my voice, how it came up, like how it was coming through, all that. I'm like, oh, this is the same. So yeah.
I had a newer client. Well, I had an intro call for a new client, and they're going through kind of a really crazy kind of like Lauryn Heyman parallel thing. And they're at the very beginning. And they said that the other person kept saying, you're the only one that can help me. And I started thinking about that. And I'm like, I do think there's ways that it's true in terms of like the interdimensional part of my relationship with Heyman, that I was the only one that really knew the codes and really. And so it required me to face myself so much, because I had to like trust what I knew over what so many people were telling me, even when he didn't trust me or he didn't know or he didn't believe. And so I can see how that could be true for like you and Finn. And also because the contract is so much about activating each other, you know? And I also understand like how scary it is, especially because you love the person, you don't want to fuck them up. Like you don't want to make the wrong choice. Like, you know, I was literally dealing with life and death situations. So the level of pressure I felt around like making the right choice so often, you know? Yeah,
well, I heard myself saying, and I didn't even like all the way know why I was saying it, but do you remember when we were in Colorado? And I showed Megan a picture of the boys, and she was just like, oh yeah. She was like Indigo Kids. She was just like, oh, they're like, she just immediately said something about them. And I've just had this thing that I always say that I'm like, maybe I'm doing all this stuff because I'm supposed to do something or learn something or be something, or maybe I'm doing all of this to be their mom. Like that might be why I'm doing all that. I've just had that thought. I've said it out loud so many times over the last 10 years. It feels true on a different level now, I guess.
Yeah. Well, do you remember that journey where I saw, and it was like, these are the people you heal. And it was like my mom, Jacqueline, Heyman, Taylin. And it was basically like also the one where they're like, if you don't intervene with your sister, she could die when she's 40 years old. And like, basically so much of Jacqueline's healing started, you know, from that point. And I do think, you know, this goes back to my Metatron theory and this idea that we're in webs, and like some of those webs, we are way more important to certain roles and have way more impact, you know, and then I think that's also what makes my relationship or lack of relationship with him now so complex, because I still kind of know that there's a way that like, no matter what happens to him, I'm always going to know. You know, like what should occur or how he could be supported. And there's so many things that I'm not going to experience, you know.
One thing that's kind of cool is so we went to this pediatric GI and we met with the nurse practitioner for the first like hour or so. And she was like getting full history and asking all these things. And she was asking about if he had surgeries or had hospitalizations. So I was talking about when he was 2 and he got intussusception, and that it was like, which is like your intestines folding in on each other and causing a blockage. And it happened at the same time that I had cancer in the same indication. And it was like confirmed on ultrasound. It was like literally mirroring. And I was like, well, this is going to sound pretty weird. And I like started saying all that. And she was like, she was like, before, she was ahead of my words. She was like, oh, and it was at the same time and same. And I'm like, yeah. And it felt really nice to have like kind of a regular doctor be like, oh, I 1000% believe in all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, so we're real connected. She's like, you know, because there's clearly some sort of emotional anxious part of what's happening. And she's like, does he have a therapist? And I was like, he has some like non-traditional people that he's working with. I was like, I have a therapist, I have things, and I'm just really aware what I'm doing over here with me is just a huge, like, that's what's happening over there with him. So I'm doing all the things I know how to do. And she was like, good, keep doing all that. Like, it was kind of nice to have a normie kind of just affirm, like, oh no, yeah. Like, she was.
We should call them that, the normies. Well, someone we both know, maybe you know the story already, but like she has definitely one son that's like way more indigo, and then one that's kind of more of a normie. And the normie son had this horrible earache, and he was screaming. It's like, yeah. And they go to the doctor and they check him and it's like, nothing's wrong with you. They check the like indigo child and he has a horrible ear infection, but he feels nothing. And just like this, that he might be pushing his pain over to, just that's what I mean.
Told me that story when
you remember with Heyman, I would like feel when he was having sex with other women, I could feel, I was energetically transmuting the experiences that he was having. And I would almost like beg him to stop. And he would be like, you don't understand. Like, I'm feeling it. I'm there, and I even thought it was crazy. I don't as much now because I understand that like 5-dimensional consciousness, we are so much more energy. We're so aware of ourselves as energy that even though we have bodies, we're telepathic. We're so attuned to ourselves energetically that the sensitivity levels just get higher and higher and higher. One thing I saw for Abby is that like she is so attuned to herself at the 5D, but her body is so in the 3D. And there's such like a mismatch that it's causing, it causes her a lot of additional pain, physical discomfort. And that's why this thing of like, what I'm learning to do is to upgrade the bodies so that the bodies can hold more of the 5D without it being so painful. I think that a lot of even like somatics and some of the work that we're doing is if your body is stuck in a 3D blueprint, it's just a band-aid for the discomfort of being like a giant light kind of like shoved into this like tight space. And so if we can upgrade the bodies, I think that obviously we'll still need somatics, but it will even evolve what it is and how it supports us.
Yeah, somatics is also like low key interdimensional energy work. Like
right. Ultimately, it's teaching people to like understand their sensations and
like time travel and like create different experiences.
Just sensation instead of thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because the podcasts coming out now seem light years behind, and like, that's what I was going to ask you, is the next one coming out. It's like the day we had kind of like a conflict that we were like working through, and I had to listen to it to edit it. And it like was like nails on the chalkboard. I was like, "Ooh, this is uncomfortable."
I thought the one where we got in a tangle already came out. So
there's a couple this season.
Oh, boy. Right.
But this one, we're not like arguing. It's kind of, but there's this energetic undercurrent and we're like being very conscious, but I could feel the energy of like, and I was just like, oh my God, when is it going to be over? I'm sure other people will like listening to it, but I was like, uncomfortable.
I gotta listen.
It's not out. I checked, so maybe next week. I think I told him like every 2 weeks is better anyway.
Oh, okay.
Right now, just so I can have a little bit, especially I think that one was like an hour and a half. So that one, you know how it is.
Takes a while to listen to it all.
Yeah. And pay attention. Like it's hard to double task because you got to find the.
I would do it like in the bath because I could just relax and enjoy the bath while I was not editing, but doing the thing. Well, apparently Zach has some big message download for me, but I haven't heard about it yet because we couldn't get in touch. But I told him about, like, I've been reflecting to them what all has happened with this stretching and the Control Alt Delete, whatever the hell. He has a lot to say. He gave me a very long text. But yeah, I'm going to see what he has to say about it all. and for people listening, basically I've been doing so much fascia work kind of like every week for a while. And it's like double stretching. And it's like tearing out all my programming to the point where I'm like, who am I and what do I do? And I don't know what's going on there's like no new programming getting written. It's just like deleting old programming that doesn't serve me. So it's like a very strange time to be me.
And I mean, that is the first step that I've learned. You have to remove.
Yeah, I feel like context was the first layer, and then somatics was the next layer, and now the body's the next layer. And it's like, I don't know. Things just feel really different. Mostly in a good way, because a lot of it's like belief systems that I get reactive or scarcity about or whatever, but it's also like all the vigilance that I built because in response to those, like, I'm not doing that. It's not that I can't, it's just like normal ways of being, like even being future oriented or whatever. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not doing the things I normally do, not because I'm not trying to, it's just not happening.
Like energetically, you feel kind of just blank, like a clean slate. It does.
Well, Marla's given me all these codes too to clear things out. So I'm like saying all these mantras and stuff, but it's a lot of clearing out. And so I'm like, it's very clear. I'm like, yeah, it feels blank. Doesn't really feel like a lot of urgency to fill up with anything either. It's just sort of like, that's just what's happening right now.
Are you, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. Cause me and Abby, I was saying like, I didn't have to, I guess I chose to sign the withdrawal of partnership from Freedom House this week. And so, they're like, it's like all complete.
I signed my divorce papers this week.
Yeah, it feels like that. And I'm like, it's like, I can obviously remember everything that happened, but I don't feel it in the same way. And it does feel like there was like a Control Alt Delete, and even like, but in a way that's like, some ways positive and some ways like scary,
Well, you're getting so many downloads, so much information. For me, everything's gone out.
Yeah.
We're having these opposite experiences right now.
Yeah, mine's more like timelines getting deleted. I would say less than like stuff in my body at this point.
Thanks for listening. We welcome your feedback. You can email us at healingcollectivepod@gmail.com. Our website is thehealingcollectivepodcast.com, at Healing Podcast on Twitter, at Healing Collective Podcast on Instagram. Special thanks to Ethan Luck, who produces. You can find him at Ethan Luck on all platforms.